program is pre-recorded.
Welcome to Education Today. I'm your host, Kitty Kelly Epstein, and we're broadcasting live from the KPFA studio in Berkeley, California. This month, we're celebrating Black history. Black history is American history. So many of the educators I know are teaching and celebrating Black history all year round. But at KPFA, we have some special events this month. And one of them for you to put down on your calendar right now is that there is a Black History and Culture special on this Saturday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. right here on KPFA. Don't even have to go out of your house. Just turn on the radio and you can hear the Black History and Culture special this coming Saturday, a couple days from now, starting at 6 a.m. and ending at 6 p.m. right here on KPFA. Today we do a bit of Black history, also, with two guests who actually started Black studies. And I don't mean they started it here. I mean they started it for the whole country. In 1967, Black students were only 4% of the student population at San Francisco State. Although Black families were 13% of the population of San Francisco and 30% of the population of Oakland, which also sent its students to that college. The discrepancy was a set of policies which kept Black people out of college. And at the same time, there was no Black studies. Hard to believe, I know. We just assume now that Black studies exists everywhere and always has, but it actually did not exist at all before the amazing work of our guests and their action partners. Our guests have accomplished an enormous amount in the years since their work at San Francisco State, and so I'm going to give you a short sample of what their accomplishments have been since then, and then we're going to talk about how they underwent this amazing phenomenon of creating Black studies right nearby to us. Dr. James Garrett has been involved in the struggle for African American people and all people for more than 50 years. He was a member of SNCC and CORE. He has taught history and Pan-American philosophy at Howard and Temple universities in the U.S. and at universities in Tanzania and Nigeria. He served as a dean at the Peralta Colleges and a delegate to the UN Commission on Sustainable Development. He serves as an advocate and consultant to community-based projects such as the Northern California Land Trust, and he has served as a strategist and advisor to projects in the Caribbean, Africa, Asia, and the U.S. Dr. Garrett has worked on many international projects, including the construction of hospitals in Vietnam. Welcome to Education Today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for asking me.
Yes, and thank you for agreeing. I think we really need to hear this history straight from you. Clarence Thomas is a third-generation member of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union Local. He's a past secretary-treasurer and executive board member of his local, and he is considered by many as a leading radical African-American trade unionist. Thomas' activism started in the late 1960s as a member of the Black Student Union at San Francisco State and as a member of the Black Panther Party in Oakland, California. In 2003, Thomas was part of an international labor delegation to meet with Iraqi trade unionists in Baghdad. Other travels included meeting with dock workers and others in Bangladesh, Brazil, Canada, Cuba, France, Japan, and Spain. In 2008, workers shut down all 29 West Coast ports on May Day to oppose wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And later they closed down the ports in support of other important issues, including issues having to do with police abuse. Clarence is also the co-founder of Declare Publishing and has published, authored, or edited several books, including Mobilizing in Our Own Name, The Million Worker March, and 1934, The Year of Good Trouble. So, Jimmy, I'd like to begin with you because I think you were first at San Francisco State for beginning this organizing that resulted in Black Studies and in the existence of a Black Student Union. So there was no field of Black Studies before the work of you and your colleagues. Is that right?
Well, I agree that in the modern sense, how people would look at it now, people did home studies, they did studies in churches. There were pockets of culture and history in places like Chicago and Atlanta, New York, especially Harlem, on several generations of trying to consolidate what we would now maybe call Black studies. In the South, where I grew up under apartheid in Dallas, Texas, we did gain some information on what then was called Negro history. It was very laden with white supremacy, but we were exposed to it. It was only when I came out to California as a ninth grader in the late 50s that found that there was no such thing really as Black studies or Black history. It was totally blanked out in my school, the Thomas Jefferson High School. So, yes, I would say that didn't exist. The other point is that there was strong, as I gather, strong engagement in particular types of then Negro history and then Black history at the HBCUs, at the historical Black colleges and universities, where the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee began. A lot of NAACP youth groups consolidated to where much of the early civil rights movement, especially involving young people, most of them were recruited out of those historical Black colleges and universities. A lot of young students who were expelled for their civil rights activities, and that's one of the foundational elements or components that led to the development of Black studies.
Thank you for that part of the history, because I think in California we do have a tendency to forget about the HBCUs, even though a lot of us encourage students from here to go to the HBCUs if they can, but we do concentrate a lot on just the local colleges. You also were part of the creation of the first BSU at San Francisco State, right? There wasn't actually anything called a BSU at that point in time. Is that correct?
Well, at some levels, what I had learned at SNCC was I'm an organizer. That's my whole life since I was 16 years old. The idea of pulling various components of people together, various groups of people together to work together around a common denominator is in many ways the story of my life. Mm-hmm. When I went to San Francisco State in late 1965, I went with a mandate from SNCC intentionally to see if it was possible to build a Black student organization or a model of a Black student organization. And the choice ended up being, for many reasons, San Francisco State. So that's really the genesis of my work. When I got to San Francisco State, there was already a community of various levels of activism. There had been movements with CORE, Congress of Racial Equality, and other organizations, demonstrations for jobs, employment, for mobility, for access in San Francisco and in the Bay Area that already existed. There was already an atmosphere, a positive atmosphere for organizing in the Bay Area generally. The connections that have to, at San Francisco State, there was already a Negro Students Association led by a profound and visionary sister by the name of Miriam Al-Wadi. There were also nationalist clusters of Black nationalists who had come out of the Afro-American Association. There were Black fraternity and sorority members who were students on the campus. When I got to the campus, there were about 135 students on the campus, which was less than 2%. So when you say that there was 4% by 1967, that's a 100% increase in the number of students. So I mean, so for us, we were building a critical mass of students on the campus as part of the development of Black studies. I need to say this finally, that the linkage, the connections that aided in developing the Black Student Union at San Francisco State were four sisters, four Black women. Joanne Mitchell then became Stringer, Patricia Rivera, Vanetta McGee, who became a big name Hollywood star, and Mariana Wadi. Those are the people those four Black women, students on the campus, were a leading force in helping to create the atmosphere so that we could foster a full program that ended up being the Black Student Union. Black Student Union wasn't an inclusive organization. I mean, it wasn't an exclusive organization. Didn't exclude Black people, whatever they were involved in. The church, George Murray and Benny Stewart, who became leaders in the movement, came out of the Church of God in Christ. So we had a wide range of Black students on the campus, veterans who had been military veterans who had come to school under the GI Bill. All of those were components of what became the Black Student Union. But that was, as far as we know, the first Black Student Union on a four-year college campus.
Fantastic. And is it you? I remember that someone told students that if they were Black on the San Francisco State campus, they were automatically members of the BSU. Was that you or somebody else who?
Well, that was the part of our program. A program was that if you identified as Black, not as a student, if you were a radio or TV commentator, if you were a person who worked on buildings and grounds, if you worked in the cafeteria at San Francisco State, the moment you hit that campus, you are our responsibility. So what we did was we built a wide net so that anyone who came on the campus, whether it was 5 minutes or they had residence in the dorms, they were all members of you didn't have to join the Black Student Union if you identified as being Black. You were automatically a member. You didn't have to pay a dime, you didn't a membership fee, none of that. And that came really from Patricia Rivera and Joanne Mitchell. Their thing was, let's open this up so that no one could have a reason for staying away from what we were doing. And what we were doing, what the purpose of the Black Student Union was to recruit people from the community, from Potrero Heights, from Hunters Point, and from Fillmore, from East Bay, from various places in the Bay Area, bring them to the campus, train them, develop serious consciousness, activist Black consciousness, and transfer them back into their community. We saw the campus as a beachhead, so that was our work. So so I wanted to make sure that it was understood that there was a broad reach. It was different from other activities. Fraternities and sororities were more exclusive. There were people that were not included because they were of a skin color or they came from a certain class with a caste within the Black community. That didn't exist with us. And because we opened it up, that was a very good strategy for bringing people in. And a number of the ways we brought people in is because of their experiences in dealing with white students and white faculty and white administrators on the campus. They would come to us when they were in trouble, and our job was to work with them. The only demand was, you stick to it as long as we stick to it. So I want to make sure that those kinds of things were laid out, because those were the basis, the preliminary basis for developing Black studies. We had to have all of those components along with our connections to the community itself. For example, and then I'll leave with this. It was part of the development of Black studies at San Francisco State, the first four-year Black studies. It was called Black Studies and Community Work, was our connection with Laney Mary over in Oakland. there they were already developing a black curriculum. Bobby Seale, Huey Newton, Sid Walton, Sister McKinney. Those are people that we connected with to learn from what they were doing. Although they were trying to build a program to keep students on the campus, we were trying to build a program to develop students to send them off the campus. We didn't want them locked in to campus life. We wanted them to continue to be integrated with their own people in the community to develop those communities and to provide skills and capacities for those communities.
Those are such important issues and such important information for people who want to be doing organizing now, how to make it work and what kind of approaches and attitudes to take. So, Clarence, you worked on Black Studies also, and I believe you were a student who was in charge of facilitating some of the Black Studies classes, right? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I don't have very much time. I when we discussed this earlier, I told you I didn't think 26 minutes was long enough for Doc Garrett and myself to talk. We're both loquacious. So,
well, I would love to have you both back again. Our show is only 26 minutes, so if we don't end it at the end of 26 minutes, then it goes off the air. But I would love to have you both back because I know you have a lot more to say, and I know I've heard both of you talk, and it's certainly not adequate for everything you have to say, but in the little bit of time, so tell us a bit, please.
Well, first of all, what I would say is that the Black curriculum at San Francisco State was initiated in the spring of 1966. The class was taught under the auspices of the General Education Elective Program, a program for new and innovative classes in education. The class Black Nationalism was taught by Aubrey LeBrie. And this course was different for two reasons. It was uniquely designed to meet the then awakening appetites of Black college graduates and for more Black-oriented courses at the college. In terms of my own activities with regard to the Black Studies Department, I have to tell you that I came into the Black Studies Department fighting because I came into San Francisco State the fall of 1967 under the auspices of the Black Student Union at San Francisco State Special Admissions Program. And as the power of Black and third world students began to emerge on campus, there was resentment and pushback from a sector of the white student body. And this was manifested by James Vasco, who was the editor of the San Francisco Daily Gator newspaper. And he wrote an editorial which called out the Carnegie Foundation to not fund Black Student Union initiated programs, which included funding for such programs and services as the Black Studies curriculum, Black Arts and Cultural Series, and other programs. This prompted Black Student Union members to have to pay a visit to the editor to try to make him understand the error of his ways. And this led to fisticuffs because Black students at the time were trying to do all they possibly could to awaken the consciousness of Black power and Black self-awareness and internationalism and so forth. And these funding for various programs, such as the Carnegie Foundations, were critical. So to make a long story short, the students were summarily suspended, of which I was included. There were 6 of us, and that caused a great deal of pushback on the part of Black and progressive students. And that led to Dr. John Summerskill having to shut the campus down. Well, that was the first time on November 6, 1967 was the first time the words on strike shut it down. Students went to the administration building and demands regarding 400 black students come on campus and so forth and so on took place. But what happened in 1968 was that I was a part of a delegation of 6 people who went to New York, and we made a presentation before the Carnegie Foundation and other foundations for the purpose of finalizing funding for our programs, of which we were successful. One of my primary responsibilities as being the student coordinator of the Black Studies Department was to ensure that the vision and the input of the Black Student Union, who were the visionaries who came up with the idea of this Black Studies Department, were included. And I dare say that that was critical because of the various contradictions that developed sooner rather than later as it regards the formation of the Black Studies Department. One of the main reasons for the strike was because in terms of us implementing our vision, we had recruited Dr. Nathan Hare, who came from Howard University, and we wanted him to be the chair of our department. George Mason Murray, the Minister of Education of the Black Panther Party, had been a graduate student teacher in the English department that was teaching students, and we wanted him to be a part of the Black Studies Department. And when the administration, rejected those requests, we had to go and do what was necessary, and that was conduct the longest student strike in American history at a institution of higher learning. Let me just fast forward to this point because in the interest of time. Black Studies represents a revolutionizing of higher education, not only in the United States of America, but throughout the world. At San Francisco State, it reflected the radical and revolutionary vision of its founders that served the interests of Black students and their respective communities. One of the classes that was offered was Black journalism. It was taught by Judy Hart Thomas, currently known as Judy Juanita. She was also the first woman to be the editor of the Black Panther Party newspaper. She was appointed by Huey P. Newton, co-founder of the party himself. Judy's class published the BSU's Black Fire newspaper. It not only taught students the principles of good journalism and what to expect in working in a corporate newsroom, it also gave voice to Black students' desire for self-determination at San Francisco State College. For me, Black Studies at San Francisco State College meant what was aptly described in the Black Panther Party 10-point program. We wanted education for our people that exposes the true nature of the decadent American society. We wanted education that teaches us our true history and our role in this present-day society. I'm going to conclude with that because I think our time is about up. I want to thank you for having me on the show. There's a lot more I wanted to say, but I think it was very critical to have Dr. Garrett to speak. And I knew it was going to be a very difficult time constraints because we both have a lot to share, and there's so much more I would have liked to have talked about, but
I would like
will-
to have you come back again. We have the show every week. We also have, fund drive, so we don't actually have it every single week, but I would like to have you come back. Before, in our last 2 minutes, I wonder if each of you has 1 minute's worth of advice to activists, particularly Black student or young activists at this moment in time. Have you just a minute of advice, both of you?
Yeah, let me just say this. Organize, organize, organize. In many respects, it should be easier for Black students to organize now in the fact that we're facing fascism. And there's so many issues in which we can organize around. So I think that would be my suggestion. And the other part of that is this. Learn from the lessons at San Francisco State. Young people who have the commitment to fight can win. Dare to struggle, dare to win. That's my advice.
Yeah, that's quite a slogan and what is very beautifully illustrated by the San Francisco State strike. Something that I think has kept a lot of us going in the Bay Area is knowing people can win from that strike. Jimmy, a word of advice from you?
I agree with both of you. I agree particularly with Clarence's focus on organizing, because now there's some mass resistance taking place. I agree that we're in a period transitioning into fascism. I think there's a global civil war out there. I mean, there's a world to win, and it's possible for young people to engage in a great deal of visionary and positive experiences, but only. I think what he said about looking at history and studying and reading the history of the positives and negatives of things that have gone on in the past, very, very important. But these are good times for struggle. They're also terrible times if we don't struggle. That's it.
Thank you. That's beautiful advice. I want to really appreciate you both for being with us. These are two of the most profound thinkers in the Bay Area, in my opinion. So I hope our listeners will pay attention to that. Jimmy Garrett and Clarence Thomas, working together at San Francisco State, and then also in all the years since, continuing to be organizers and really having an effect on the world, both through San Francisco State and through the other work that they've been doing since then. And both of them have basically been organizers for their entire life. So it shows it can be a good life and you can get a lot done. And I hope the younger people listening and also the older people listening will take that to heart. You've been listening to Education Today. Yes?
Kitty?
Yeah.
Kitty? Can I say one last thing before we close?
Yeah, please.
I would hope that young people would go to my website, millionworkermarch.com, and buy my books, because it would be very helpful for you to understand what is necessary and achievable if you organize and have real solidarity.
Great idea. Jimmy, you have anything you want people to read or watch in particular?
I mean, they can look me up. I'm on Google. I'm in a lot of places. But I think that I appreciate you and Clarence, and thank you for allowing me to participate in this program. But Jimmy Garrett can be looked up.
Both of our guests can be looked up online. Jimmy Garrett and Clarence Thomas. And thank you to our engineer, Rod Akil, the staff of KPFA. And our listeners will be back again with you next week, and we'll be talking about another aspect of Black history with a different guest. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
American historian, author, and leading scholar of racism and anti-racism, Ibram X. Kendi.
People are facing real challenges in this moment. And what Great Replacement Theory convinces people that the source of your challenges are those other people, or those people who are strangers, or those people you already don't like. And I think that's what makes this theory so dangerous, because people's livelihoods are suffering right now at the hands of the super rich. And some of those people within the super rich are heavily financing politicians to tell people that they're suffering because of people who are suffering even more than they are.
Storytelling for social change, only on KPFA.
This is 94.1 KPFA and 89.3 KPFB in Berkeley, 88.1 KFCF in Fresno, everywhere at kpfa.org.